The first illusion they sell you is this: that credentials exist to protect quality. They repeat it so often that it starts to sound like truth. But systems rarely survive on honesty alone. They survive on compliance. And credentials, over time, stopped being instruments of knowledge and became instruments of control. In the beginning, knowledge was direct. You learned because hunger demanded it, because survival required it, because failure was immediate and unforgiving. Reality was the judge. There were no committees, no permissions, no seals. If you could perform, you belonged. If you could not, you vanished. But as societies centralized, power began to fear unpredictability. Independent minds were difficult to manage. They did not wait for orders. They did not ask permission. They adapted faster than hierarchy could respond. So a buffer was introduced, an intermediary, institutions. Institutions did not merely teach. They filtered. They decided who was allowed to be taken seriously, who could speak, who could operate, who could earn, and most importantly, who could be ignored. The credential was framed as protection, but its hidden function was psychological. It trained you to outsource authority. Instead of asking, "Can I solve this?" you were conditioned to ask, "Am I allowed to?" This is where control became invisible, because once permission becomes a habit, coercion is no longer required. You regulate yourself. You delay yourself. You disqualify yourself before anyone else has to. Think carefully. How many times have you stopped short of acting on an idea, not because you lacked capability, but because you lacked approval? You wanted to build something, but you were told you needed certification. You wanted to speak with authority, but you were told you needed credentials. You wanted to enter the arena, but you were told you needed validation. This is not safety. This is gatekeeping. Gatekeeping does not exist to block incompetence. It exists to manage scarcity, to ensure only a controlled number of people can enter a profitable domain. Artificial limitation, artificial prestige, artificial hierarchy. And the most effective part, it convinces intelligent people to defend the very walls that confine them. Because once someone invests years of their life and vast sums of money into credentials, those credentials must be sacred. If they are not, then the sacrifice was meaningless, and meaninglessness is unbearable. This is why credentialed individuals do not simply disagree with the self-taught. They resent them, because the self-taught represent a dangerous possibility. That authority was never necessary. That permission was optional. That waiting was a mistake. When you outperform without the stamp, you expose the fragility of the system, not through rebellion but through existence. This creates cognitive dissonance, and dissonance demands resolution. So the system responds not with debate but with dismissal. You're unconventional. You lack fundamentals. You don't understand the theory. Where did you study? These questions are not inquiries. They are defensive rituals, a way to protect the myth that credentials equal competence. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He warned that borrowed power is unreliable, that mercenaries fight for pay, not for survival, and when pressure rises, they retreat. Institutional knowledge is borrowed power. It is memorized, certified, externally validated, but rarely internalized. Self-earned knowledge is different. It is carved under pressure. It is linked to necessity, to consequence, to survival. It becomes part of you. This is why independent learners adapt faster. They are not loyal to theory. They are loyal to outcomes. The system fears this adaptability because control depends on predictability, and the self-directed mind is inherently unpredictable. So what does the system do? It slows you down, paperwork, requirements, standards that shift just as you approach them, not to stop you outright, but to exhaust you. Most people do not fail because they are incapable. They fail because they are delayed until momentum dies. This is the real function of credential inflation, to stretch the timeline until only the compliant remain. And yet, despite all of this, reality still selects for competence. When systems strain, when innovation accelerates, when old models fail, the gatekeepers quietly search for those who can actually perform. They just won't admit it publicly. This is where you must be careful, because awareness alone is not enough. Understanding the system does not make you immune to it. In the next video, I will show you how power is exercised interpersonally, not through rules but through language, through subtle psychological pressure, through framing traps designed to shrink you in real-time interactions. If you do not understand those tactics, you will still lose ground, even with superior ability. Subscribe to the inner blade, because the next layer is where most people break, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it.